Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now we're going back into r/niceguys stories, and before anything, if you haven't already, be sure to slam the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not, because coming in August, I might actually consider doing something different for the channel, but that's gotta be with your guys' support, and can only happen with your guys' support, so help me out here. Our first story comes to us from username JourneyCakes. One date with a nice guy. I gave the nice guy a chance. This happened a few years ago. I had just turned 16, which meant I was of age in my country, Canada, to consent to dating people who weren't my teacher. Yay! Of course, though, it still felt super creepy whenever guys over 17 would hit on me. Here's the cast, names changed for obvious reasons. Jay, me, Nathan, my coworker, Eric, the nice guy, and Mom, my mom. I had been working at some crappy rich person flip-flop store for several months now, and I hated it. We had tons of entitled people come in, but that's a story for another subreddit. Nathan was fairly new, but had put in his 2 weeks due to the fact that our manager sucked. We would work 8-hour shifts with no breaks, and none of us were trained properly. Also, we weren't allowed to sit in the store or buy stuff before our shifts, which is confusing because you aren't allowed to sell stuff to yourself in retail. It was a busy day, and I was getting off of my morning shift. Shifts rarely overlapped, but thankfully Nathan's shift overlapped with mine that day. He was the only coworker I actually liked while I was there. The shop eventually slowed down and I was just kind of chilling. We talked about how I had a date after my shift. I was on one of those sites that targets itself as a friend-making app, but really everyone is there to go on dates. I wanted to be a rebel and go on a date with a guy in his early 20s to tick off my parents. Once my shift ended, I waited around a little while, which broke store rules, but I was close to quitting, so I honestly didn't care. That's when our nice guy enters the story. Eric had walked in and I stood up to greet him. "Jay?" he asked. I got up and smiled. "You must be Eric." I went to shake his hand, but he hugged me instead. It was a little weird and I was a little uncomfortable, but I went along with it. Nathan ended up waving goodbye to me as we left. Eric didn't really show much interest in my personality that day. I took him to Indigo, a Canadian bookstore, and showed him some of my favorite books. I was checking out classics like the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Divine Comedy, etc. I even looked at some manga, as I am a fan of manga and graphic novels. I had a feeling while I was browsing that he only wanted to get in my pants. While I was looking at some graphic novels, I forgot how this came up, but he did something and I called him cute. I had never been on a date before, but I'm pretty sure whatever happened wasn't what's meant to happen on first dates when you want to take things slow. Eric ended up taking me into an aisle and forcing me to kiss him, and ended up grabbing my butt. I was rather confused and gasped a little in surprise, which caused him to pull away. I like cuddling and hand-holding, but making out in public is not my thing, especially when I just met the person. "Oh, did I startle you?" Eric asked with a sly smile. Yeah, sure," I smiled a bit. We ended up dropping that subject and just walked around the mall. I asked for his opinion on some outfits I tried on, but he didn't really say anything. We ended up waiting for our buses together and went our separate ways. I didn't really trust him, and my gut gave me a bad feeling from him, so I stopped talking to him. A few days later, however, I was rather confused when he texted me out of the blue on a school night. "Hey, I was wondering if I could pick you up tonight and we can go for a drive maybe." It was 12 a.m. and I had a math test in the morning, so I told him as much. "Hey, sorry, I can't. I have a big test in the morning at school," which was true, but he didn't believe so. "Puh, you're just saying that because you've never had socks." I had told him that I was a virgin when we first started talking because he asked, and he seemed to chill and didn't say anything more, but now it was as if he was trying to guilt me into messing around with him because I was a virgin, if that makes any sense. I ended up not replying, which was funny because after that text, he blocked me. Like, okay buddy, I think I saved myself a lot though, because honestly, I think I would have been roped if I was to go with him. Ended up getting into a relationship after that with a misogynistic neckbeard who was mentally abusive and kind of pulled some stuff that had a vibe though. Either way, RIP. That's a story for another time and another sub though. TLDR went on a date with a nice guy who then later tried to guilt me into sleeping with him. Our next story comes for us from username Yukatree. peer pressured into dating the nice guy. Hi everybody, this is my first post on Reddit. During quarantine, I spent loads of time watching Reddit videos on YouTube. I would highly recommend, hey, look me, if anyone is interested, and was inspired to share my own experiences with a nice guy. So a little introduction. See, this is why I do my stuff, so people can come forward with their experiences and get this kind of weight off their chest. This story takes place a few years ago when I was 16 and 17. My friends and I had just started our junior year of high school. I'd only been friends with him for a year or so, one of which was our nice guy. Let's call him M. M and I hadn't spoken much over my time in the group, apart from a few awkward conversations at lunch. I wouldn't really call him a friend, more of a mutual acquaintance. By the start of school, a lot of people had hinted at me that M had a bit of a crush on me in sophomore year, but I didn't think anything of it. Big mistake. A lot of new kids joined our school in junior year, and among them was a guy called Lewis. He was put in my math class, and we hit it off straight away. I don't want to sound cliche, but it was love at first sight. We had so much in common, and he was so smart and funny. As he was new to the school, he decided to hang out with my group of friends and asked for my phone number. M didn't like any of this one bit. As soon as Lewis left, M exploded at me. Hey OP, what's so special about him? That means he gets your phone number. Are you into him? What? He's new and is trying to make new friends. Get off my case. Well, if he's not special, then I guess you'll have no problem giving me your phone number too. I didn't want to give M my number, but I also didn't want anyone to know I was starting to like Lewis. After he kept teasing me, I gave him my number. Later that night, I realized my mistake. M messaged me constantly, morning, noon, and night. He'd always been kind of quiet, so I didn't expect him to text me so obsessively. He always wanted to know where I was or what I was doing. Every time I tried to stop replying, he'd go crazy, saying that he needed to know where I was to make sure I was okay. The only time I got any peace was at school, especially around Lewis. Whenever he showed up, M would go silent and just glare at him for hours. Lewis and I usually sat together and had our own conversations, even holding hands occasionally. M hated it. He asked me if I was going to date Lewis, and I said it depended on whether or not Lewis was going to ask me out. This gave M a very bad idea. Although M had been silent around Lewis before, now he was like a bodyguard. He insisted on walking me home from school, sitting next to me all the time, and going to every party I was invited to. He didn't want to give Lewis the chance to talk to me, but Lewis was still pretty open that he liked me. Then one day, M snapped. He asked me to go with him to town for an emergency. He sat me on a bench and told me that he'd been in love with me for a year and that all of our awkward conversations had meant so much to him and he thought we had a real connection. He also said that my mental health issues, I was dealing with depression and anxiety, were hot, which really offended me. I told him I appreciated him telling me, but I wasn't interested in him. I told him that he needed to stop following me around and texting all the time. He stormed off, and I didn't see him until a few days later. Over the next few days, I tried messaging Lewis, but he didn't seem to want to talk. Eventually, he said he didn't want to see me anymore and that he didn't like me. I was crushed. I tried talking to my friends, but they told me I should have given M a chance. M, unsurprisingly, was a butt about the situation, giving it all the usual nice guy crap. I would never treat you like that. You're a queen. You deserve better. Not all men are like him. I'm different. All my friends seemed to agree with him that M was the best option for me. Eventually, they started getting more threatening, telling me that if I didn't at least give M a shot, they didn't want to be friends with me. I know, they're terrible friends. I gave in and M arranged a date. My first date was horrible. It was a crappy burger place in our town. M spent the whole night talking about himself. The only time he gave me a compliment was on saying that my chest looked good in my dress. I regretted going as soon as I left the house. I knew I wasn't over Lewis, and I knew that I'd been pressured into going on the date. At the end of the night, I tried to walk home alone, but M grabbed my face and kissed me. I was horrified. It took all my power to not have a panic attack right there. He grabbed my arms, holding them to my sides, and told me he was going to walk me home. I felt so relieved when we got to my house. I wanted to forget the night forever. As I went to say an awkward goodbye, M invited himself in and pulled me straight to the sofa. I asked him why he wasn't going home, but he said he had a surprise planned. I had no choice choice but to follow as he dragged me to sit next to him. As soon as I did, he pulled me on top of him and began groping me and kissing me again. I tried to scream into his mouth and pushed him away, but he kept grabbing at me. He only stopped when he heard someone in the hallway. I told him to get out of my house. I didn't want to see him again. Em and I never went on another date, but I still had to see him. My friends couldn't understand why I didn't want a second date. He told them that it had been a huge success. I began to cut off my friendships with them. I threw myself into schoolwork and therapy and eventually recovered from depression. The M thing was a huge setback. I decided not to tell anyone about it. All my friends had known him forever and thought he was a great guy, and it was his word against mine. M contacted me about it and said I shouldn't be mad at him because he deserved to do that to me, because he liked me for over a year. I blocked him on everything. A few months later, I ended up getting back in touch with Lewis. He had heard that I'd had a really tough time with the group and we started talking again. Apparently, M had made everyone kick him out of the group and had told him that M and I were a couple, so he had to stay away from me. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that M had lied. I told Lewis what had happened to me with M and he supported me. We started dating about 2 years ago and we've been together ever since. I'm in uni now in a different city, but I've been home during the virus to be with my family. I saw M a few days ago in town. Apparently, these days he refers to me as that depressed barge and tells everyone I led him on. Considering he likes to act all tough, he turned and walked to the other way down the street to get away from me. As for me, I'm much happier since I got rid of him. Hopefully, he will be my last encounter with a nice guy who's that evil. TLDR, nice guy in my friend group gets jealous when I meet a new guy, become obsessed with asking me out first, tells the new guy that I'm already his girlfriend, and then assaults me after a terrible date. Yeah, see, whenever people complain, why don't you just give the nice guys a chance? This is why. Our last story comes to us from username Crying Kings. Sad little nice guy. A month ago, a nice guy named Mitch added me on Facebook. He was a mutual friend of mine named Cornfield. In sophomore year, he was nicknamed that because he was hecka tall, and he named me Popcorn because I'm not. Mitch was alright at first, said hello, and so did I. Mitch mentioned how depressed he was. I didn't really care because I've been told I most likely have severe depression by a social worker from my school and barely met the guy. So I was like, oh, that sucks, dude. Asked him if he wanted to talk about it. He says no, thank God. Told me he wanted to get to know me. It was just like, cool, okay, not a big thing, but now I think it meant something else. I'm slow most of the time. Then the subject switches to him thinking I was a Twitch streamer, but I accidentally link a Twitch account that didn't exist instead of my Twitter. I told him I like to draw and edit videos. Told me he wants to be a YouTuber, all that jazz. Mentioned how my PS4 got stolen. Anyway. Now, sometimes I get panic or anxiety attacks, not sure which one it is. I don't even notice because it happens so often now. My hands are already shaky, and during an attack, it just gets so much worse, which are basically hand tremors. I can't breathe, my heart feels like it's going to burst, my vision gets blurred, and my stomach feels empty. I'm used to lying about how I feel with some people because they ask questions. During an attack, I don't feel the need to lie, but I usually hope people don't make a big deal out of it because it can make it worse. I told him he did make a big deal. It was weird but nice of him, like genuine nice. It didn't feel like an alternative motive. He doesn't make a big deal after it happens, so I thought he was cool. We continued chatting. I told him I wanted to write psychological comic books, mentioned playing Minecraft, basically telling him what I do when I don't answer because I feel bad and get antsy when people don't answer me. The next time we talk, I'm curling my hair and doing my nails to go out with a couple of friends. You know, the regular screaming and running around a mall, eating ice cream, sitting in the back of a pickup while your friend drives around an empty parking lot and then stopping because he keeps telling you you'll hurt yourself if you keep trying to stand up. He makes a comment about it looking cute with curls. I'm a sucker for compliments, okay? I didn't have a lot of attention growing up. His next comment creeped me out. I told him my friend, called him this guy, was being a dong because this bee couldn't wait 5 minutes for me to come outside, so he went to pick up another friend who was 3 miles away. He said, looks like it's my gain, his loss. It was like, bro, what? Anyway, he makes another dumb comment. Imagine me cute smirking. I'ma be honest, he is not my type at all. Dudes I like are usually super funny. He was not. Hair curly or wavy hair, dude did not have hair and are usually dumb as heck, but can somehow still emotionally manipulate me in a way that makes me less sad. I also enjoy alternate women and just women who can beat me on command. After I finally come home, my friends take a lot of energy out of me, but that's mostly my fault. I'm the baby of the group, so my thing is suddenly having a bunch of energy and then passing out the next hour. I was super tired and he asked me out my date. Unless I went on a date with a super tall guy, a short baddie girl, and another baddie girl whose boyfriend can beat the shot out of me, it was not a date. I told him it was not. I know it's a nice guy thing to assume every guy friend is your boyfriend. That friend was never my boyfriend, and I wouldn't be his. I also mentioned how I've never been on a date. That was my bad. I gave him an opening. I was caught slacking. He tells me, you know, you're a real cool girl, and that's how he sent it. It told me, I ain't a girl, brother. I'm trans. Told him so. Thought it would turn him off. It did not. He asked if I was MTF or FTM. Told him FTM, and he asked if I was willing to date guys. I said, guys I've known for a long time. That's a lie. I don't date guys I've known for a long time because they are strictly friends to me. Same with women. If I start thinking of you as a friend, you'll stay a friend. Because I value having friends. Unlike this guy, he asked me what type of guys I like. I told him I like buttholes because he doesn't think he's one, yet he still thinks he has a chance. After this, it goes on regularly, and he tells me he's got a date. I thought, good for him, hope she'll be okay. Apparently it didn't go well. He asked if we could properly get to know each other and tell him I don't know. I was kinda hoping he'd go off on me. Nothing much happens until the next day. First thing he does is try to emotionally manipulate me, i.e. I was bullied by girls and nice girls want to love me and I really like you and girls aren't nice to me. I went off on him, told him he shouldn't expect much from women if he's going to do the bare minimum and women don't want a dude who will throw themselves pity parties. Told him to talk to people who are actually nice and maybe an actual girl because I'm a butthole. He apologizes. I told him I don't give a shot. Then I found out he harasses a girl from my old school. She's an ex-girlfriend of an ex-boyfriend. When we chatted, she was nice to me. She's very pretty. She doesn't deserve this. She also didn't deserve my ex-boyfriend because he was a giant butthole to her. He'd pick fights, wouldn't put any effort, and hit me up before he actually got with her. I've been considering calling him out for it. I really want to do it. I don't know if I should, because what if it gets worse? I'm probably gonna do it. Anyway, I'll edit this later. My phone's dying. Edit, forgot to mention why Cornfield is important. I told Corn about Mitch. He told me about the other girl he harasses and how many times he's been called out for his behavior and has almost been beaten up. It turns out he just apologizes and goes back to the same stuff over and over. I don't think me calling him out again will do anything, so I've just decided to block him next time. Corn says he has good intentions but terrible ways of going at it. I told Corn, no excuses, guy's a prick, so Corn just said to block him if he makes me uncomfortable again. It turns out he's already graduated high school but still went to her school to give her a giant teddy bear. She's a junior. He had harassed her to the point where she had to ask people to wait with her. Corn told me not to worry about her and that she'll be fine, but I don't know anymore. And with that, that is going to have to be it with the video. If you would like to be absolutely amazing and supportive for the channel, be sure to slam the like button, leave a comment down below what you liked about the video, and if you have not already, subscribe to the channel. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.